Hey, horror hounds, and welcome to an episode of This Just In. Today we're going to be talking about Child's Play 3.
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
Oh, come on, Chucky, don't do me dirty like that. You know I'm only going to talk good about you, bud. Alright, so Child's Play 3 takes place 7 years in the future. Came out 10 months after the second movie because Universal had some money that they wanted to take from all of our pockets. It was not as successful as they were hoping, and Don Mancini, who came back to write it, says this is his least favorite film in the entire series. It kicks off at the old toy factory. They're going to clean that place up to start making more good guy dolls again. There's a giant claw that grabs onto that old Chucky plaster with the head blown off, picks it up, and as it does, it pinches down so hard blood starts pouring out. Well, as they're picking it up and moving it, they end up dropping some blood into the batter. So we're going to have an army of Chucky dolls in part 3. No, we get one doll. Don Mancini wanted to have an army, but Universal didn't want to give him the budget for it. So they wanted that third movie to come out fast, but cheap. After this, we go to the Good Guy Pals where they're having a meeting with the executives, and they decide they're going to relaunch the Good Guy dolls because that doll sold 2-to-1 over every other toy they had. Instead of trying to come up with something better, they're just going back to the old house, going to grab that doll out and make it all pretty again for the new kids. The first one off the lot is there as a present just for the executive of the second movie. He ends up taking it back to his apartment. In there, he's got a whole boatload of toys that these guys have made. Don't know why he has all these kids' toys, but he does. So he's watching TV and he's playing mini golf, and the TV turns off. So then he goes and reaches around. He gets the controller handed to him by Chucky. Pretty nice, pretty smooth, Chucky. So he turns the TV back on, and then there's two dolls sitting in a chair, and they start talking to each other. He goes over to investigate it, and then when he's stepping away, Chucky rolls some marbles on the floor, and he trips and he falls. Then a nice toy police car comes charging at his head, but he dodges it. When he gets up, he swings with a nice golf club. So Chucky's used a baseball bat and now a golf club. He likes to swing weapons. He hits him in the head, ends up knocking him down, then he jumps on his back with a yo-yo, and he chokes the guy out. Probably the only time you'll ever see a yo-yo be used in a cool way in your life. After this, we go on to boot camp. Nah, it's just Kent University. Our boy Andy's been bouncing around the system and he can't find a home. Foster care is tough. So he ends up going to Army school. Here at the Army school, he's going to find out Lieutenant Shelton's an asshole. In the beginning, Andy's meeting up with the colonel of the school, and he winds up getting his hair cut, and while he's getting his hair cut, he meets Tyler, the little boy who Chucky's going to become friends with in this movie. I wonder if they play any games.
What's your name, kid?
Tyler, what's yours?
So, while he's getting his haircut, a Good Guy commercial comes on. The movie goes all slow motion because Andy's having PTSD. But Tyler is like, wow! He's like 8 or 9 years old, and he is so amazed at this doll. I think he's a little old to be amazed for that doll, but yeah. He's an Army brat. His dad's in the military, bounces around. He kind of just gets stuck going to that school. At this point, Andy goes back to his room. He meets Whitehurst, his roommate, the nerdy guy who doesn't really want to be there, but he doesn't have a choice in it. And where does he find him? That's right, tied up in the closet, because Lieutenant Shelton is an asshole. Later on, we get to see some drills, and Lieutenant Shelton picks out Andy because he's the new guy. And he's being kind of a jerk to him and this and that, and De Silva ends up sticking up for him. De Silva winds up being Andy's love interest in this movie. That's right, since he's older now, going on probably like 17, now Andy's allowed to like girls. She ends up having to do 25 push-ups, and at the end he tells her to do one-handed push-ups. And she knocks out 2, and when she gets up, she got a nice smile on her face as she stares at Andy. You think that's cute flirting, but as a fun little fact, the actress who played De Silva did those push-ups one-handed by herself. She said she wanted to do them, and I'm pretty sure she was just real proud of herself after she was done. At this point, Tyler's down in the mailroom looking to see if his dad sent him a letter, but he didn't. But the guy in charge of the mail asked him if he could deliver a package to Andy. So he's carrying that package to Andy, and he winds up dropping it down the stairs, and it tears a hole in it. And it's a yellow box with a footprint on it. Oh, that's good guy dolls. It's Tyler's best day. He ends up taking that package and going somewhere else with it to open it up. Clearly being an army brat, trying to be a good kid, he doesn't understand that tampering with the old mail is a federal offense. Once he opens it up and he's staring at the box, Chucky comes plowing out like, ah!
Who the fuck are you?
Tyler's like, I thought you guys only said like 3 phrases. And Chucky says, I'm new and improved. And then Chucky starts thinking to himself, this is a new body. I haven't told anybody who I am yet. So then he tells Tyler, his name's Charles Lee Ray. Chucky's got a new kid that he can go after. Right here during this scene, he says he wants to play a game with Tyler called Hide the Soul. So Tyler lays down, he puts his hand on his head, and he starts chanting to Damballa. A couple of the higher-ranking officers come in. That ends up stopping. And the one officer says to him, Tyler, dolls are for girls. We don't play with dolls. And he grabs that Chucky doll and he carries it outside and throws it into the garbage bin. So the garbage truck's there actually picking up the garbage at this exact time. So he picks it up and he tosses it into the back of the garbage truck. And Chucky's screaming, oh no, help, I'm trapped. Going for that perfect little kid voice. And the guy driving the dump truck gets scared, so then he turns off the truck, and he goes over and he climbs in there trying to find this little kid. You see Chucky climb out. Then he turns on the truck, turns on the crusher, and that's all she wrote. That guy was just trying to save some little kid's life. So later that night, Andy is putting away his clothes, because Lieutenant Shelton's going to be a dick again. And while he's putting the clothes away, he ends up kind of getting there, sitting there, folding his clothes on a cop, gets the back of his leg slit. Chucky coming in to stab him. So Chucky's now, Andy's like, you can't kill me. You need me. And Chucky's like, I don't need you. I got someone else now. So Andy knows that it's Tyler. They get into a little bit of a scuffle, and then Shelton walks in and disturbs the scuffle. He sees Andy playing with a doll, so he takes the doll. He then puts it in his room. Later that night, Andy brings a knife with him, and Andy is going to go after Chucky. So he sneaks into Shelton's room, and when he opens up the door to try to find him, Chucky's not there, but then when he turns around, Chucky's holding on to a huge knife. Scares Andy, and he jumps back and lands right on Shelton. Shelton flips out, sees the doll's missing, and says, where's the doll, Andy? Andy doesn't say where it is because he doesn't know. So now everybody gets to wake up and go do drills out in the pouring rain. Shelton's got a point to prove. While this is going on, Tyler is in his room waiting, and Chucky goes in there to get him. But there's just a note. Tells him to come and find him. So instead of hide the soul, Tyler wanted to play hide and go seek. So he's playing around with Chucky, and running away. Goes and hides in the colonel's office, and then when he's in there, Chucky finds him. And they end up hiding in a closet because they hear a couple of people talking, and it's DeSilva and one of her friends, and they're trying to find out some information on Andy because she thinks Andy's a cute boy. He's a good boy. Come on now. What ends up happening is she ends up opening up that door and seeing Tyler with the Chucky doll. So then she talks to it. And he says, hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play? Of course, she thinks this is so cute. She puts lipstick on Chucky.
Wait, stop.
Here you go, little baby.
Come on. You're messing him
Oh, you're
up.
so cute. Oh.
Don't do that.
So as you can see, now in part 3, we're kind of going a little more humor. You got Chucky with his one-liners, don't fuck with the Chuck. I'm new and improved. At one point, he tells Andy that he's going to be a bro.
Just think, Chucky's gonna be a bro.
Kind of going into a little bit of humor in this one, more than the rest. At this point, they end up taking off because they hear Colonel Cochran, and they leave Chucky behind. So Colonel Cochran comes in his office, he's walking around trying to look through some stuff, and he ends up seeing the Chucky doll with the lipstick, and he tosses it in the garbage can. He hears it tip over, and he looks, and there's no doll. And then Chucky comes out screaming with lipstick on his face with a knife. Ah! Colonel Cochran has a heart attack, and Chucky says the exact same thing all of us fans of Chucky are thinking. Says, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So Colonel Cochran, is he killed? He's killed by Chucky, but he has a heart attack, so technically his heart killed himself. After this, the next morning, they have a moment of silence, and then they're all having breakfast. And that's when the barber comes in and he's grabbing people by their head and telling them when they're going to come in, get their hair cut, because they're getting too shaggy too long. He tells Whitehurst to meet him right afterwards. So Whitehurst goes and gets his hair cut, and then he leaves, and while he's fumbling around with some stuff, Chucky doll falls out. So like any good barber, he sees all that hair. He says, That's not regulation, soldier. He puts him in the chair, and when he goes going at him with the buzzers, right at his head. There's a razor next to the chair. Chucky grabs that razor and swings it and slits his throat. Blood starts pouring out. Chucky's got another one-liner here. See, every time this barber would cut somebody's hair, he'd say, "Presto, you're bald." So then Chucky says,
Presto, you're dead.
Whitehurst comes back in, sees him. Chucky looks at him and goes, "Boo," and he runs away. So they're off to go do war games. Team Blue versus Team Red, just like Call of Duty. These guns are filled with paint, so it's more capture the flag. Each team gets to go out, do what they want to do, hide where they can, and try to get the other team's flag. What they don't realize here is that while they're all out there getting a nice demonstration, Chucky's trading out the old red paint for live rounds. The one part of this whole scene that makes no sense and is super confusing is, as you see the whole time, Chucky's just dropping the paint rounds on the ground. So if all these people came in to grab guns, wouldn't they see all of those rounds all over the ground? Chucky doesn't seem like the type of person to clean up after himself. Just saying. Well, they're all out marching, and they end up going to where they're going to set up camp, and Andy needs to go find. You see that blood effects.
Fuck me.
At this point, they're still shooting live rounds till eventually they figure out, oh shit, we're shooting live rounds. Shelton was an a-hole, but I don't think he needed to be shot by another one of his own partners. That's kind of rude of Chucky. Supposedly in this scene, Don Mancini had wanted to have a lot more people get shot, but I don't know if it was the budget. Something came up. Either way, there was a lot of people getting shot, and it only went down to Shelton. At this point, Tyler ends up running away, and Andy and De Silva are going to find him, and Chucky sees that he's gone. So Chucky throws the grenade to try to get a few more people, and Whitehurst does that valiant thing, and he jumps his whole body on top of the grenade, and it explodes. And Whitehurst is dead. Tyler's taken off to a lovely, lovely theme park-looking thing out in the distance. It's like a little town fair. He gets down there, goes in the Lost and Found, and he's talking to the security guy, and the security guy tells him he found a doll. He can play with that. It's Chucky. So Chucky, who left after everybody else, somehow made it to the fair faster than anybody else did. So those little legs were kicking. At this point, we see Andy and De Silva come into the park, like your little town fair. And they're looking around. They finally go into the security tent, and they see the security guard. They're dead. Lamest kill of the movie. Security guard shot in the head. Off screen. Budgets. They end up seeing Tyler run into the back of a ride called the Devil's Lair. And this is what I would like to call the sickest fair ride you could ever have that would never exist in real life. This thing is huge. It's bigger than the fair in the town I grew up in, but it doesn't look like it on the outside. But don't worry, on the inside, it goes for days. So they're in there, and Tyler and Chucky are walking, and Chucky found a good spot. They'll let Chucky know some of those little machines in there when you're driving through, they're going to be powered up and kick open some caskets and stuff. Tyler ends up getting away because of it. Tyler hides inside one of them, and he sees Andy, and he starts screaming to Andy. But then Chucky ends up coming out, and he shoots De Silva in the leg. So now De Silva gives the gun to Andy, and Andy's going to have to save the day. What a difference. Andy was getting chased and almost murdered. He was always kind of hiding, running away, protecting himself. But now he gets to be the good guy. Weird how that works out that way. Well, Tyler runs into this other room, and Chucky's trying to go after him. And when Chucky thinks he has him, this Grim Reaper comes slicing down with a big scythe, cuts off half of Chucky's face. You can see all the blood and the entrails all down the side of his face. And that's when Tyler climbs up on this gargoyle bird-looking thing, and he rides it up to the top of Skull Mountain. And then Chucky grabs onto those legs, and you can see him just to kick it. I gotta get up there faster. So they get all the way up to the top, and Tyler thinks he's safe when he gets off, but Chucky gets down and knocks him out. He starts the chant, the world's longest Damballa chant. I feel like this one's longer than any other movie has had. Chucky is doing this chant, and Andy comes into the room, and he starts climbing up the Skull Mountain, but he slides back down. So then he ends up climbing up a little bit more, and when he gets to a good spot, he pulls out that gun De Silva gave him, and he remembers that lesson that De Silva taught him because he was such a bad aim. Hold your breath. Don't pull the trigger. Squeeze it. And he winds up shooting off Chucky's arm. Chucky ends up dropping Tyler as he's sliding down towards that giant industrial fan that we've referenced 3 times in the movie, so you knew there was something coming up with that. Chucky ends up getting on Andy, and he's choking Andy from behind, and Andy ends up cutting off his arm and tossing him into the slow motion fall of Chucky. Like, ah! He lands into that fan and boom! Somehow there's an explosion when a doll lands into an industrial fan. And you see bits and pieces just flying everywhere. Chucky's dead. They end up leaving there, and De Silva's in the back of an ambulance because she got shot. And Andy's getting taken away by the police yet again. He tells De Silva not to worry. He's been through this before. Alright. Overarching thoughts on this film. It's okay. This one has a lot more comedy in it. The one-liners are galore. Some of them are pretty good. I like Don't Fuck With the Chuck, and I like Presto, You're Dead. The visuals, army camp or school, it's meh. I mean, who wants to see a bunch of army kids for 3/4 of this movie spouting off lines like you're watching Full Metal Jacket? It's kind of a letdown. The third act in the park or the fair, I like the fair. It's a good scene. I mean, that roller coaster is ridiculously huge, but overall, you get Chucky's face sliced in half. He gets an arm cut off. He gets a hand cut off. He gets thrown into a giant industrial fan. Like I said, Don Mancini hates Chucky, even though he loves him. He loves to make Chucky go through some pain. In this movie, Andy's played by a different actor. This is the only movie where Andy's played by a different actor. He does okay. Not a fan of his acting, really. I don't know. Most of the characters in this movie are just blah. Like, there's not like a whole lot. The one who gets the most arc is probably Whitehurst, because he goes from being the wimp in the closet to diving on the grenade to save everybody. The kills are pretty decent. I mean, for the most part, you get the throat slit, you get the guy crushed in the dump truck, which is probably the most brutal kill of the whole series so far. And then Chucky always gets it bad. In general, I would probably give this movie like a 3 out of 5. It's not one that I'm going to go rewatch. It kind of takes a lot of the beats from the second one and thinks if I just stick with the same thing, it's going to work. But it's missing kind of the fun of the second one, even though it goes for more humor. All right. So the next one we're going to be doing is Bride of Chucky. Chucky's finally going to get a wife. And what a difference that makes in the movies coming up. So if I could, have you hit a like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can talk about Child's Play 3. And until the next one, rest in peace.